Australia once built one of the greatest muscle cars the world had ever seen. Then we stopped. And what replaced it isn't even close. In 1971, Holden built a car that cost $4,000. And nothing rolling off a production line in Australia today. This is the Holden Monaro, and this is why we've gone completely backwards, the Holden Monaro. 3 simple words that still make every Australian car enthusiast stop in their tracks. First introduced in 1968, the Monaro wasn't just a car, it was a statement. It told the world that Australia could build something fast, something beautiful, and something uniquely ours. For 9 years, from 1968 to 1977, Holden built 3 generations of this machine, the HK, HT, and HG series, then the HQ, HJ, HX, and HZ, each one refining what came before, each one carrying the torch of Australian muscle car culture. But here's the question, nobody wants to answer honestly. If you had $80,000 in your pocket today, what would you actually buy? Because when you look at what that money bought in 1971, adjusted for inflation, the answer might make you furious. Let's start with the car itself. The 1971 HQ Monaro GTS 350. And when we say 350, we mean the 5.7-litre Chevrolet Fifth 8 that Holden slotted under the bonnet. 329 horsepower, 343 pound-feet of torque, sent directly to the rear wheels. No all-wheel drive, no traction control. No electronic driver aids telling you to slow down. Just you, the road, and one of the most sonorous engines ever fitted to an Australian car. The original price? Between $4,000 and $7,000 depending on specification. Adjusted for inflation to $2,025, that's roughly $55,000 to $95,000. Which means the Monaro GTS 350 sat in exactly the same price bracket as the sports cars Australians are buying right now. Except it was doing something today's cars can't. It was being built here, in Elizabeth, South Australia, by Australian workers, with Australian steel wearing an Australian badge. That's not nostalgia talking. That's a fact that the modern car industry cannot replicate. Now let's talk about what that GTS 350 actually felt like. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in under 7 seconds in 1971. At a time when most family cars were struggling to hit 100 in under 15. The Monaro GTS wasn't just fast for its era, it was genuinely fast. But performance is only half the story. The other half is what the Monaro represented culturally. This was the car that Australians aspired to. The car that sat on the bedroom wall posters of a generation. The car that proved Australia wasn't just following the Americans and the Europeans, we were competing with them. And in 1972, Holden sold over 13,000 of them in a single year. Think about that. A country of 13 million people was buying this car in numbers that would make modern sports car manufacturers weep. But before we talk about what replaced the Monaro, we need to talk about what it did first. The moment a Monaro crossed the line at Bathurst, it wasn't just a race result. It was a national statement. Australia, a country that had been importing its car culture from America and Europe for decades, had just beaten the world on its own mountain, in its own car, built in its own country. And the buyers responded. Showrooms across Australia couldn't keep them in stock. Parents brought their kids in just to sit inside one. Mechanics learned the 350 Chev engine inside out because they knew these cars were going to be on Australian roads for decades. That's what a truly great car does. It doesn't just sell, it embeds itself in the culture. It becomes part of the national identity. The Monaro did that, completely, permanently. Then in 1977, it was gone. Production ended. And for 24 years, the Monaro nameplate sat in history, celebrated, mourned, and never forgotten, until 2001, when Holden did something almost nobody expected. They brought it back. The 2001 Holden Monaro, the V2 series, a genuine rear-wheel drive, V8-powered 2-door coupe, built at the Holden plant in Elizabeth, South Australia. 5.7 litres, 225 kilowatts, and a price tag of $49,990. It was everything Australia said it wanted. A modern muscle car, an Australian muscle car, and Holden sold it for just 4 years. By 2005, it was gone again. The same story playing out a second time. The GTO version was exported to the United States, rebranded, stripped of the Monaro name, and Australian buyers were left with nothing. Think about that for a moment. Australia built a genuine world-class muscle car in 2001. The Americans wanted it so badly they imported it and put a Pontiac badge on it. And yet here, in the country that built it, we couldn't sustain enough demand to keep the production line running. So that's what we had. Now let's talk about what replaced it, because this is where the story gets genuinely depressing. Fast forward to 2025. You want an Australian muscle car? Here's your problem, there isn't one. Not a single car built on Australian soil. Not one. Holden shut its doors in 2017. Ford Australia stopped manufacturing in 2016. The Elizabeth plant is gone. The Broadmeadows plant is gone. The tooling, the workers, the expertise, all gone. What does $80,000 buy you in an Australian showroom today? You're looking at imported options. A Toyota Supra, built in Austria, not Japan. A BMW M2, built in Germany. Or if you want a V8, you're paying well over $150,000 for something like a Porsche. And here's the part that should make every Australian petrolhead genuinely angry. The closest thing to a locally relevant performance car, the HSV Commodore, was discontinued in 2017 when Holden shut down. The last V8 rear-wheel drive performance car with any connection to Australian manufacturing. Gone. Now, modern cars are faster in a straight line. Nobody's arguing that. A modern turbocharged 4-cylinder can match the Monaro's 0 to 100 time with ease. But ask yourself this, is faster the same as better? Because when you strip away the driver aids, the screens, the subscriptions, and the algorithms, what are you actually left with? You're left with a car that's built overseas, designed overseas, engineered overseas, and feels exactly like every other car in the same price bracket. There's nothing Australian about it. There's no story. There's no soul. The 1971 Monaro GTS 350 had both, in abundance, and we're never getting that back. So here's the bottom line. The Holden Monaro, in inflation-adjusted dollars, cost roughly what a modern performance car costs today. It produced similar performance numbers. It was engineered and manufactured on Australian soil, and it carried a cultural weight that no imported car, at any price, will ever carry in this country. The argument that modern cars are simply better misses the point entirely. Better at what? Better at feeling generic? Better at making you forget you're in Australia? The Monaro was built for this country, for these roads, for this culture. And the fact that we allowed the industry that built it disappear, without a fight, without a plan, without a replacement, is genuinely one of the great failures of Australian manufacturing history. Nothing built today comes close, not because today's engineers aren't talented, but because today's cars aren't Australian. And that gap between what we had and what we have now grows wider every single year. If you grew up around Australian cars, if you ever sat in a Monaro or heard one, or just knew what it meant to see one, drop a comment below. Tell us, what do you think was Australia's greatest car? And if you think we're wrong about the Monaro, we want to hear that too. Hit subscribe if you want more deep dives into the cars that made this country great and the ones we lost along the way.